So the first stage to any real size project is to engage with the client, typically via phone call or meeting, depending on where you are. I wouldn't necessarily advise emails unless it's only for small projects, mainly because people simply don't talk and express their opinions as freely when it's written down. When it's vocal, it's much easier and much more relaxed and calming. It also allows you, as the person taking on the project, to get familiar, present your ideas, pose your own questions. But the very first introduction is a real big overlay. You want to get into your head where you're going to start work the next day. What is your tasks? What is the overview? And mainly making sure that you don't go 2 months into development and find out that you missed a key detail that affects the whole project. So that's the aim of the initial consultation of yours with the client. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So before I jump on the call, let's go over firstly what it is I'm trying to get from this call, where my head's at and what I'm thinking of in terms of information I want to extract. So far, I know this is an app for diabetes. It's to help manage the condition. And that's pretty much as I know. We've had about 10 emails over a year, back and forward, just helping out from the software side. So now it's time to delve in. So this really is unknown for me, if you will. It's early territory. So the key things I'm going to look for, firstly, the very first key point that makes a big difference to the whole project is, one, is this going to require a cloud-based system? I.e., do we need online users? Do you want to sign into the app with Google, Facebook, your own account? Do you want it to back up and synchronize across devices? Now, I'm pretty sure in a modern age the answer is going to be yes, but again, you don't want to presume. The client might say, well, I want this app just local for now. I can just sign in, manage my diabetes using the app, and I want it quicker. And if you cut out the cloud, it's going to be much quicker. So another point you'd normally raise is timescale and obviously budget. But as mentioned, this project for me is on pro bono, so I won't be paid for this. And also the timescale, I've known the client for now a year, and he's trying to self-fund this, and that clearly the timescale isn't as important as simply getting the product out there. So I don't feel that one, cost, and two, timescale in this instance are relevant. So we can brush over those, we can just hint at the fact, but I don't need to consider those. So that the cloud side of things will purely be if we want to, for whatever reason, get the app out quicker, but I don't feel that's the case. Once I've ascertained whether we need cloud storage, cloud synchronization, effectively a back-end server, I then want to see what platforms you want to be on. Again, based on screenshots and the brief conversations, I'm pretty sure we want iPhone, Android. So beyond that then, you probably want to start thinking a little bit about what the application involves. The first steps, day one, you're going to start coding tomorrow. What is it we're going to do? Where we're going to aim? If it's a cloud-based app, then you could leave the cloud side of things for logging in till later. Or really, as boring as it sounds at the start of a project, you'd probably want to get a basic back-end web server up and running to return, the login, the register, the whole, fundamentals of simply logging in. What we might do is create the data for that, or know the data structure for that, and bypass that bit so we can get into the application development, or simply come back and add the login side after. So then it would really be probably a discussion of what's the app's very first, feature. What do you want to do when you sign in? What's the description of the product? What pages do we need? But you also have to remember that the client doesn't necessarily understand software development. They might not know what you're talking about when you're talking about, pages and potentially settings and cloud storage. So there's also that to gauge. And then I would just get a little overview of the projects as a whole, not talking from a software standpoint, just the purpose of the application. Because you might find out that their idea of where they want the application to go is not necessarily the best place for it to go or the most beneficial place. And you might, lend your insight into where you feel it should go. For example, they may not have thought about having a mobile app, and you might suggest, well, if you had a mobile app, you could do these features. Or they may not want cloud storage, but you could mention, well, what happens when the user changes the phone or wants to use the computer? That piece of information becomes difficult to synchronize. So Don't feel like you're afraid to talk to the client and push your suggestions on them. They're free to take it or leave it, but you want to really, at this stage, get a good feel for the application without going too much into anything specific. Don't get bogged down in the details of the login mechanics or whether you want Google and Facebook logins or a specific page in the app. Don't go into, right, this is what I'm going to start tomorrow. Let's talk entirely about this one page, this initial page on somewhere in the application. Instead, leave it as a broad overview. So once I've ascertained myself whether we want cloud storage and what platforms we're on, I can then offline decide what technology stacks I want to use, plan it out, do a timeline, do a cost typically, which again won't matter in this case. And then from there, I would really want to just talk about the features of the application as a whole, the entire features, start to finish. So the important part of this and the reason for this is to not miss detail. So if we spent the whole phone call talking about specifics, then we might miss at the end that the client actually wanted to do something that our entire application flow wouldn't allow for. So it's important to make sure we talk about the entire application and where they feel it would end up as a complete product to make sure we don't miss detail. And that I honestly don't know with this project because, as I mentioned, I literally know it's a diabetes app. So I can't really judge where I'm going to go with that conversation. I just know that I want to pose the question about, where do you see this app complete, fully featured? Give me a breakdown of it's on the store, where is the entire project in completion, and then take it from there. What you can do then the next day, you can start following up as you get going with the project and start bouncing ideas back and forward. You can use Slack, Skype, email. You can jump on another phone call. Typically, I wouldn't then start pestering the client too much on phone calls consistently unless they want that. You've got to judge how they want to communicate and make the project move forward, but use this initial call as get the grand picture of everything. So I think that's enough talk about what I want to get from this initial meeting. Let's just dive straight in. So I'm going to call the client now, and I'll take snippets from the phone call, put the most interesting pieces in, and then give you a breakdown at the end, and then we'll get started with this entire project. I'll just start with, just for YouTube, in case they try and flag me that you're happy that I'll use part of this in the video recordings to make a little intro video to the project.
Yep.
The first one I always start with is kind of your overview of this project as a whole. So literally not technical, not like, don't go into technical detail, more about your vision, you like what you want to see happen to this project as an overview with a target of like about 5 minutes of kind of introduction. So it's not massive, but try and explain literally if somebody said like, oh, what are you doing or what are you trying to make? And you were posing pretty much this question, like, you want to make this product, kind of pitch it to me as what you want to build. And then that'll lead into the questions I can then ask to get started.
So, it's just, I've heard the term elevator pitch. I think this is what it's called. So that means like in 10 or 15 seconds, you have to explain your idea. And you better be quick. So it has to be kind of very specific. Basically what it is just infographic diabetes logbook. What that means is just it represents data visually. And that's all there is to it. It's just diabetics, they have to keep track of the food they eat, insulin levels, physical exercise levels, and what else? And something else. So it's like 5 things.
Yeah.
And it's just people don't bother registering the whole data because it's so frustrating just to enter manually all the information. But what's even more frustrating is just to check the data because it's meaningless. You just actually see the like text, and you just you're bored. It's not communicating the message clearly, and you just you don't do it anymore because there's no clarity. And here, it's everything represented visually, and in the one kind of screen of app. You can actually fit information that would be like maybe A4 sheets, just written text. So how long would it take you to read the whole A4 sheet? So you have all the information in an instance. Just imagine the information being transferred in such a speed and such a relevancy to one another. It's actually, you can actually visually see when did you inject insulin, and actually compare to yesterday, to day before, so you can actually see the progression. And I don't think it will ever end. Lots of new gadgets are being developed towards making everything absolutely automatic. And this app only will help doing that because it's visual. Everything works automatically, and now you're visually seeing how it's all done. I think it just doesn't get better than that. So
we're trying to kind of, it's similar to like the fitness apps where, you know, you can do exercise, but when you see it logged and it starts telling you, oh, you know, you're 2,000 steps off hitting your goal, you kind of get motivated. You kind of want to bring that into like the diabetes realm where it's like, you know, your levels are dropping, do this, do that to score points, maybe bring some, you know, gamification into it, reward systems, and, you know, make it fun.
And basically the motivation is just to get all the blue color readings, because as you know, the blue circle is the universal symbol for diabetes. And if all the readings are blue color, then you get kind of diabetes symbol. And then that means that it's kind of everything was within range. So it's kind of motivation. I'm doing it every day for the last like 2 years. And when I get the reading, which is not blue, I don't like it. I want it to be blue. That's kind of motivation. But you're motivated by kind of beauty, because you want it looks very nice. If all the readings are in blue color and there's some physical exercise, physical exercise is it shows in green color. So it all matches very well, like blue, green, black, and white. It's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
It kind of serves as motivation.
Yeah. So I'm just making a few points here. Obviously, the list will be huge, but just sort of some key points now I'm starting to see on top of just the visuals I've seen, sort of the diagram of points. I think the things I'd definitely add is the rewards and the point scheme, kind of, you know, medals for getting a perfect score every day. You should have a score, I think, out of 100. And then maybe streaks if you manage to do, you know, 100 daily for X amount of, you know, days. Yeah. That's your top score. That kind of leads on, as you were mentioning, to exercise. In terms of what about maybe logging food and exercise, or do you feel that might be we do that after, like, you know, addition to the program, or do we factor that in at the very start to be sort of, if it's that involved in, you know, in terms of managing diabetes, you need to manage that anyway, then we should integrate it at the start. If it's pointless, like just, so we need to log, you know, foods and exercise. Is the way I know the way you manage type 1 and type 2 are obviously different. One's hyper, one's hyper. But in terms of how you see this application working, would this kind of lend itself towards both types? Absolutely. Or so we can factor that in easily. Yeah, so it's not sort of aimed specifically at just a specific type.
Type 2, yep.
Cool.
And it's going to be very, 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 very beneficial to type 2 diabetics, because type 2 affects elderly people over 40. This is where it starts. And as the arrow goes around the clock, you can actually visually see that the insulin that you injected is about to expire. And for elderly people, I think it's visually they can see that it's approaching the end. And now it's a time either to take a pill or just to inject insulin, and it's visually very clear. Yeah. So and clock is just they are used to it, whereas I think younger people, maybe very, very young, they don't even know how clock operates. I've heard of these things. So that's why I have like a digital clock representation of that clock. So it works for young and old. Type 1, type 2 is just like really, really nice.
Yeah. In terms of getting involved in the diabetes side, we'll dive into that separately to this, I think, because I'll need to really understand it a lot more. You know, we'll sort of dive into how we collect that data, if there's any hardware, because I also make hardware, by the way, so I can actually make custom hardware if we need it to potentially gather this info. So that will be a discussion on, let's figure out what data we need to gather, and then let's look at how we automate that gathering of that data and potentially end up with either integrating into, we'd probably integrate, I'd say, into smartwatches to gather heart rate, steps, exercise, because they can track exercise. We can scrape the exercise data from like Google Fit or Samsung Health or Apple, whatever's on Apple. I don't use Apple, but I'm sure there's something we can scrape there. But then in terms of getting like insulin levels, and ideally what we'd have is something that's already on the shelf that we can buy that's got an open API, so we can kind of interface our software and just drag that info out.
So just the latest, maybe not current smartwatches, but future, they already have blood glucose. It will definitely be maybe next year, but the year after. So you will be able to get glucose readings just from the skin. So you actually wear the watch, and then it just checks your glucose. So with no needles, nothing. And then you have apps that actually read glucose via something attached on your body. You just put your phone next to it, NFC, I think it's called, near field communicator, whatever. And that's how you derive the glucose. I'm just a little bit all over the place, but I just see the possibilities,
I think I get the overall idea now, which is obviously to manage diabetes, make it a bit more fun, try and hit the goals of keeping it stable. I'm kind of excited now from how you're excited about it, which is what I like. It's the biggest thing you can have with anybody is the motivation. I've always told that people, you've got your desire and you'll achieve it. So I'm looking forward to doing this because, one, it helps people, which I love doing. Two, it's going to be free, so everybody can benefit. And three, we'll hopefully have a good audience from the channel I'm pushing it on to get some feedback and some notice, and then we'll go from there. So let's do the boring questions now, I guess. This is a little bit technical. So
before we do that, can I just quickly add one thing? So the thing is the Olympics. You remember? Maybe I just posted some time about that. So one of the things is diabetes has a burnout. Diabetes burnout, I think it's called. So this is where people no longer look after their readings. They just forget about it because they just get depressed. I've been there. And the Olympics, it's actually the system where it's kind of social media, I would say, where you'll be able to see your friends' readings. Maybe there's a competition as well. So kind of if all readings are within blue range, then you get like first place. And then if you have like one reading above or below, then it's a second place. So the worst place out of three you can get is a third one. So that means you've had one hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. Either your glucose was too low or too high. And then you just actually have 10 friends, one friend, two friends. And then you just check, what's been day for them. It's just, that was, high blood glucose. What the heck? And they say, it's just this, So it just, you show attention. And that's, I think, very, very important. And then you'll be motivated to kind of be proud when all your readings are within, with blue. Just check this, you see? So I think that's going to be very, very, beneficial. I just wanted to say that.
The next one really is platforms in terms of user devices. So there's two kind of areas to this. One is the obvious answer: we want it everywhere, every possible device you can imagine. And then the second is more realistically, what would we class as the major areas? So I'd obviously say, without question, if you will, it's going to be iPhone, Android, Windows. Are the definites. Mac OS, I presume we should as well, because that's mostly, it's only got 1% of PC market, but it's still, you want to go everywhere. Linux is kind of, my personal thought on this would be, we could do it. The way we'd build the Windows and Mac app would be practically the same. If we're using .NET Core and ASP.NET with Electron, it means it'll work across all three anyway with very little work, but I'd do it on Linux, but as a low priority. Like I'd probably even release the software before even bothering with Linux, and then release in future. So we could put like
smartwatches. It's very, very important.
We'll do the smartwatches. So in terms of, we'll do phase 3 where Linux will land. Phase 1 will be... I think phase 1, to be honest, has to include the smartwatches because this is going to be very much driven by data. Yeah. So,
because when I've been trying to kind of advertise the whole thing, I haven't been doing it like really intensely. Just really, really easy. People were really interested in smartwatch app, like really.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll do all 3. The 3 I know of anyway is you've got Wear OS from Google, you've got the Tizen. I've put Android, but it's actually Samsung's Tizen, and then you've got the Apple. We can also research that. When we come to make these decisions, we'll do a quick research, see if there's anything we're missing. There's maybe some other smartwatches I'm not even aware of.
Yep.
So we'd have iPhone, Android, Windows, Mac. Linux would be phase 2 in this case, and smartwatches would be in the phase 1 as well. Next one is a fairly big decision, is cloud services, which basically means, do we want a master website in the cloud that handles anything at all? And I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, because one, to be able to create your own profile and have an account and not lose it every time you change phone or watch, you need that. So straight away you need it. So that's a kind of yes. On top of that then, so we'll need obviously basically a login and account system, which is fairly given. We mentioned, well, I wrote down, I don't know whether you mentioned directly, but we'll probably want a friends system, a kind of ranking between friends, maybe some social. I don't think we want to add messaging directly, because what you might end up with is murking the waters of what this product is. If you add messaging and then it becomes, now I want to send pictures, now I want to send emojis, this, you end up making a chat app inside of another app. And I've been there. You don't want to do that. So it'll be more of things like you can maybe send them a, if you've got number 1, you can prod your friends that you're number 1, and it's like a single action that can happen, but some kind of, feedback.
Very, very good job.
In terms of other cloud, I don't think there's anything specific at that point. The obvious is, like, say, the login to the account, the access, that your data's naturally going to be synced there. We won't bother writing those because that's obvious. Then on top of simply being able to log in and use the app, I think we add the friends, the social, the ranking. And I think we just stop there for version 1, because you don't want to add too many things and delay a release too long. So I'd say that I covered that.
Absolutely,
Then we've got 2 other. One is Timeframe, which normally, well, there's also Timeframe and costing, but because I'm doing this for free, it doesn't really matter. But in terms of, I guess, for people learning from this, the experience they get from it, if I was going to cost this out, I've already said this would easily be £100,000 project without even, but that's at my rate. I typically charge £100 an hour. So you're talking £800 a day to kind of have me doing it typically. I'll probably be making £5 to £10 a day off, donations. So it's literally going from earning all the money I want to doing this for free. But the major benefit here is people would see what's involved. You wouldn't normally do it as a single person. There's not many people that would take this project on and go, I'm going to do it all.
I think this is the beauty. This is the beauty of this app, because it's going to be, you know how it is if like 2 people work on the project, and if 10 and if 20. And how good could that be when somebody who understands the whole thing does it on his own? That's got the potential of like really, really, really something beautiful.
So I mean, I've the last company, there was 20 developers in, and to be honest, from 3 developers plus, the gain was marginal in terms of, development. And like you say, you need, or at least what I've had is that overall experience of everything. You can kind of get it all in your head, see the entire picture, and make the right decisions for the whole project. So, just for people that would typically be speccing a job out like this, I'd naturally just advise them you'd normally have a team. You'd have 5 to 10 developers, and you'd probably scope this out over 12 months. Now I'm going to obviously do it myself entirely, and to be honest, if I can dedicate daily work on this, we can whiz through this really fast. But there's constant growth, constant things. I can see it being, we'll try to get some publicity to get out there, and maybe raise some funds that way, things like that. But at times,
it can be like really huge if done right. It's got potential, like really.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of a time frame of the project, I guess that's similar to what you'd probably say that I'm going to say, and it's kind of as soon as possible. Like, we can't go any quicker than we can go, but if this is what I'm going to do and this is where your desire is, we don't really have a time frame. I don't think it's like, we're in one of them positions where this is something we both want to do, so it's kind of that. Whereas normally you'd either have time frame versus sort of cost as your two driving factors. From that, you'd then pick what you're going to do first. So because we don't really have a time frame or a cost, all we have to think about and really on this is what we cut out from version 1 to simply get to market sooner. And it's not
straight away.
Yeah. So it's not driven directly by those factors, but it's for the same purpose. We want to get out there, we want to get usable, we want to get a beta out there so people can give us feedback. The other important thing with the feedback is we kind of want to get the most minimal version out there without going too far into UI, too far into features, because say we start off and you do the graphics and I turn that into perfect UI, and then we do the back-end work, we push it out there, and instantly 99% of users hate the UI. Well, we've just spent all that time making what we feel is the right UI, but then 100,000 users later, not one of them likes it. So we've got 2 points left really that I wanted to cover. One's an ideal starting point. So if I was going to jump on this tomorrow, and I guess it'll be me in terms of where I technically start as a developer, but not from the technical standpoint, more from of everything in the application that you can imagine has got to be done. We've got to make, web services, backends, UI, security, logging, databases, yada yada. It goes on for a while. If you could pick a thing that you'd want come out first, and so you can gate in your hands, you can maybe gate on a watch, you can gate on a phone, something. What would you like to be the very first thing you see? Do you want it on Windows? I
know exactly what that is. Yep.
Yeah, go on then.
This is so now the trend. It's not really a trend, but maybe it can be called a trend. So there's like so you can now if you want to check your glucose, blood glucose, you have to prick your finger, just get to some blood, get it on the reader, and that's how you find out your sugar level in the blood. So now there are alternative to this is a continuous glucose monitor. So you attach something to your body, and then it just reads glucose every 5 minutes, and then it shows you on the app. And there's another, but that's very expensive, $300 or $100. I don't know. It's just like really expensive. And there's another alternative. So you attach the sensor to your body, and then you just scan it with your phone, and just you scan it, and it shows you the glucose level. And this is what it could be, the first app. It just could be, it just shows the glucose. So it goes 1, 2 on your phone, and then you just attach it. It shows you the glucose, and it shows the color, and that's it. So no food, no insulin, no exercise, nothing. It's just a glucose. It's just and then it just shows the color and the trend. Is it stable? Is it going up, or is it going up very, very rapidly, or is it going down? Or is it going down very rapidly? So this is the starting point. This is so now the app, that app, it shows you what time it was and your reading, and you have to make like API that actually, if it's from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock and 12 minutes, so it pushes into that gap, and it just arranges the gap and arranges the color and reading. And if it's American or kind of European measurement system, whether it's millimole per liter or milligrams per deciliter, and 12 a.m., 12 p.m. clock, and 24-hour clock. So that would be a starting point.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult to do, and the potential is great. The market is like really great for that.
Yeah. So we've got in terms of them platform, I guess, starting platform. What I like to do is, and to be honest, the easiest thing for rapid development is to work on a Windows system. That would probably just be I think what we could do is do a Windows system in series with an Android system, say let's pick those two,
Yep.
and we make the core of this, and as much as possible of this whole project will obviously be in a cross-platform core library, which will be .NET Core, so that'll work across the board. So all the logic and everything will be in there. I think we start with that with a plan to maybe leave off logging in. We don't need to log in now for the minute. Like you say, you just want to get some readings and showing up. Maybe even just log into the local device at that point. So it's like a little clear data button to just start afresh. And then every time you scan, it starts making a new log on the device to show you then, your circle. And then that one that demonstrates the circle UI, we can then push that out as a little beta app for people to test, see if they like the UI. We'll have to figure out what devices we use. So one's going to be manually adding and editing the levels for people that don't have a device or that have got a manual one. And then the second ones, we'll look at some kind of continuous reading via APIs, add that. So I'd say if we did a Windows plus Android, and the reason I wouldn't do iPhone is because simply, not at this stage rather, is because it is certainly not a rapid development platform. It's slow, it's buggy, it's just unreal. It's, Apple have got such bad software. It's atrocious, but people that don't really dig deep into Apple think it's good, but people that code for Apple, you soon realize why there's a hammer on the Xcode logo. That's the way they develop. So we'll aim at a Windows and Android app that monitors glucose level continuously or via manual editing. It'll have a circle UI that shows your good, your bad, your perfect levels. There'll be a choice of measurement system. What did I mean by that? That was as in terms of, US versus EU kind of, forget what you call it now. The, like you're saying, milligrams per liter versus something else. I can't think what the word is.
So milligram per liter, that's European, and milligrams per deciliter, that's American.
Yep. So I'll make a note so I don't forget that. And then like a basic clock, 24 or 12 hour, obviously. Yep. So I think that's a good starting point where I can start looking. That gives me enough work to just make a blank project with everything in and start structuring it. The last point on that, and then we can just jump back and have a little chat more on the things, is where you see the first releasable product in terms of actually beneficial, something that we could put on the App Store and it would be usable.
This very thing, it's amazing. This will be very, very beneficial. People who are using these systems, now it's just nothing to compare it with. It's this system is unique. It just it gives you visual representation of kind of information. I don't even know how to explain it, but I didn't hear anybody saying that, oh damn, no. So if somebody understands what diabetes is all about, they see they see the value instantly, because it's just kind of, this is what infographics are. They are just actually make perception so much easier, just kind of instant.
Yeah. So that's good then. So we might be able to get to, market in a sense quite early, just to keep it simple and then grow it further.
You won't be needing marketing at all. It's just once you do API, there's a site on that device manufacturers. This is where you actually put your app on their site.
Yeah.
And this is how people find it. I mean, they are interested to push your app, because you will be actually kind of be working with them. So people will be using your app, but they'll be using their gadgets. So it's kind of win-win.
Yeah.
So there's a space, and I'm very, very positive about that. That's like really a starting point.
Yeah, that's good then. So we can do that pretty quick.
Yeah. And it's just like one clock on the top, one on the bottom, and once you put your phone like that, then it goes like 3 days. And once you kind of go back, it just goes back in time. And it's like 1, 2, 3 days, and you zoom it out, and then it's 6 days, and you zoom it in. You just actually see very big numbers. And once you turn it like that, then it's 2. And maybe the next thing can be the phone, because I think the next important thing is phone. So it's kind of what the phone is just 1 clock of that app, and it's just pretty much straightforward.
Yeah, that sounds good. Another question I thought of, mainly my girlfriend's mother's got diabetes type 2, and I'm just thinking of her. She can use a mobile, but she uses the senior type mobiles with big buttons. We might want to think, and she's recently been in hospital as well. She broke her hip after a full hip replacement, so that degraded her quite a lot. And just sitting in the hospital for like nearly a month, I kind of realized how much they need software as well, like the simple things that would really improve their care. But on that kind of note, I was thinking about something we might want to potentially make some basic hardware for elderly people that don't use Androids and iPhones and smartphones, but still want to do this.
Never actually thought of that. That could be investigated.
Yeah, so I'm thinking something like a tablet type device that's all protected and it's a locked out interface, so that the children can set it up for them, and then all they have is a nice big screen and really simple buttons, because I think technology for the elderly is lacking everywhere. Even just a phone. All you need in a phone is, for one, don't give elderly the ability to edit phone numbers, because every time we go up, my girlfriend's mum's, her phone's got either duplicates of everybody's phone number or everybody's phone number's been wiped. And all it needs is a feature that says, lock out the ability to edit, because they just want to pick it up, text and call. So I know that's not related to this project, but I do see elderly people, not having the right technology right now. So that's not going to be version 1, but it's certainly somewhere I think we could aim, that there is nothing out there, let alone for this, for anything. There's nothing really in this, day and age technology-wise that's aimed solely at elderly people, because it's not a big enough money-making market. They don't spend the money. So people don't aim there, but the difference that would make to their lives is massive. So I think that's a topic we should, keep as a note for future and discuss as it goes.
Don't you think that elderly people will be moving to kind of other devices? Now Nokia are making all these kind of 3310, I think, kind of with a digital LED screen, but is it something worthwhile? I don't know, but it can be investigated. I never thought of it.
We'll keep that on the back burner. So that's kind of all my main questions. So really it's just we're just back to any other thoughts we have, any ideas, and then I now know where I'm going to start, which is one, fleshing this out, organizing a little document that kind of puts together my thoughts.
The UI is the most important part of this. It's just it's about beauty. It's about visual. I'm a visual man. I consider myself to be a graphic designer. I'm not, but I can use things here and there. And for me, it's like it has to be like a certain size. It has to be fit. It has to fit like really in the middle and not somewhere here.
Yeah.
And it has to be like because it's a harmony. And when you see kind of all readings and it's beauty, and this is where motivation comes from. When you see kind of it's all aligned so well and the colors match and everything, you just look and just you spend like 10 minutes watching and you're not bored because it's beauty, you see. And when you start kind of this will do for the beginning. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be kind of visual. It has to be aesthetic and nice. It has to look kind of beautiful.
So I think I've got everything I need there. Is there anything else you kind of feel you haven't mentioned in this project, or shall we just start from there, get moving, and then just keep
So it's the future is automatic. Even now you have an artificial pancreas system where it's kind of all being done automatically. So there's even in the future, even now there are apps where you just scan it with your app, with your phone, and then it shows the carbohydrate amount in the food that you eat. Take a piece of bread, you scan it, and then it shows that it's 22 grams of carbs in there. And it can be automatically converted, and it's all automatic. And this artificial pancreas is the system where it's all automatic. You don't have to do anything. It's a software. It's doing everything automatically, and that's the future. This is very. It's all automatic. You don't have to do anything, and it shows on these clocks how it's all represented. It works very fine with insulin pumps as well. I have designed for that, and it's just basically when you see where diabetes is heading, this app has got its place into that development, because it's a kind of visual representation of data, and it's just that's all I can say. It's just
yeah. It sounds really interesting. Like I say, so on the UI side, we should maybe. I think one of the keys to the UI is that people lack out is transition animations. So everything kind of flows just really smoothly and doesn't reload manually. So, when you transition between a page, people normally just remove the page, add the next one. It's very, it's in your face. Yeah. You want kind of like a swoosh and a smooth animation. Yeah. Like you say, all those little details make you want to use it for just the fact of being in there. And if this is something people don't like managing, then you really need to entice them in with as much as you can to get them want to go in there and do stuff. So, we'll get the UI. I think the UI is the focal point of this project. If the biggest part of this is going to be that. So, from my standpoint,
it's smooth. You have to kind of enjoy the experience. It has to be kind of because all the modern kind of apps, they're very rough. You just just kind of, there's no user experience. No. It's kind of, it lacks the beauty. It lacks the kind of fluidity. I don't know if there's such a word. It's just, it has to kind of flow. You just want to use that because you'll be using every day quite a bit. Yeah. So maybe even, having such an opportunity that by doing sit-ups, you can actually enter unit. You want to enter unit of let's say 10 units, and then you can do 10 what was it called when you
repetitions.
It's not push-up, but repetitions. Yeah. So you just, for example, it's just a crazy idea, but just imagine, you just 10 these whatever they're called, and then you just enter 10. Yeah. See, and then you're kind of being forced into physical exercise. Fantastic. It's kind of, it's a little bit on the edge, but why not?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, in terms of then, I guess like I say, I'll get going. There'll be lots of questions going back and forward now to flesh this out. We can do a lot over email, but it's probably good to have like a little catch up, probably, I don't know, once every week or once every 2 weeks or something, just have a quick catch up. We'll go from there. If you've got any kind of links on good places to start reading up about diabetes and forums and maybe some basically anything you find interesting about the whole thing, pass some like reading material to me, and I'll get involved in it over the weekend and start getting involved, because you can't just I can't just ask you what things are. I really need to be living this kind of life, if you will, myself, to really understand the purposes of what we're doing, and not just doing it because you say, oh, make this blue, make this green, do this in a circle, but I don't know why. It helps to really know the purposes. So we'll go from there. But I think it's been really good. Hopefully it'll have a bright future, and hopefully some people will support me through this, and I can do it without having to go and earn some money elsewhere, because I'd like to just focus on this, to be honest. So
just I think this is kind of the best day in my life, I would say. Because it looks like I've always had this feeling that so far I haven't worked yet, and I've worked in 50 different places, and I had many bosses, and it felt like I've never worked in my life. So what does that mean? It's like you never kind of tried. You never applied like your real talents in a way. Yeah. And this project feels like it. It feels like this is the start. This is the first kind of thing that I put my heart into. And you're totally into it. So it feels like that. It's like really, 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 really good. Thank you very much. I mean,
yeah, no problem. I mean, that's like I say, that's what I do in my job. That's what I strive for. I don't find the software challenging. I don't find hardware challenging. I don't find, to be honest, most things challenging, and that's my problem. I like to be challenged, and I also like to help people. The kind of two things that usually go hand in hand. So when I'm looking for challenges, I normally find them in other people. I find what somebody has always wanted to do but can't achieve, and then I kind of make it my little personal goal to solve their problems or to achieve their goals for them. So it would be just as beneficial to me because, like I say, that's where my pleasure comes from. So I think it'll be really good. I think it's going to be a really exciting project. So yeah, we'll get going. So
sounds good.
Cool. Well, thanks for the meeting. I'll let you know as this progresses, and I'm sure we'll be meeting very soon again.
Yep. Thank you very much. I'll keep on posting you links, and then yeah. So enjoy your weekend, and talk to you soon.
Yeah.
It's very, very nice.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks too.
Nice. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
So that was the initial phone call. I hope you gained a good insight into how I initially approach a very large project, the conversations I have, the information I try to gain. And then we'll follow this up now with setting up our environment, getting the specs laid out, getting a plan of attack, and then getting straight into developing this. And as always, don't forget to comment if you want to discuss this. This is a very open project and very feedback-driven project. If you can support me through this, you can do PayPal, Patreon, any other ways. I'll leave the links in the description. It would be greatly appreciated.